Well, a very good afternoon and welcome to the BTTS Keynote Theatre once more for another one of our keynote sessions. I'm Stuart Render, a freelance group travel consultant, travel and transport writer and facilitator for today's sessions. Now, you may know the picturesque village of Bybury in the Cotswolds, and this charming village with its picturesque, Instagrammable cottages on Arlington Row attracts thousands of visitors each year. But the residents aren't happy. It seems that coaches bringing in 50 people at a time, giving them 15 minutes for a quick nosy around before heading off to another destination is, of course, delivering no benefit at all to the local visitor economy. To be fair, I doubt anyone here today organises a tour or a day trip that doesn't include time, not only for a toilet stop, but also to visit a coffee shop or indeed a souvenir shop. So if you're a destination, or do you simply take a group booking and look forward to welcoming the coach, or are you working with the GTO or tour operator to deliver a sustainable and responsible visit that does indeed benefit the local visitor economy? Well, all of that. Well, I'm delighted then to introduce three experts in their respective fields to explore these topics. That's what they tell me they are anyway. Wendy Hartley-Scarf on the end is Chief Executive of AGTO, the Association for Group Travel Organisers. Representing coach operators in the middle here is Roland Eglinton, Managing Director of Kent-based Chalkwell Coach Hire and AGTO partner member. And highlighting the issues from a destinations perspective is Cheryl Owen, Groups Organiser with Visit Essex, another AGTO partner. Now I'm going to ask each of our panellists to say a few words, who they are, where they're from, what the shoe size is, that sort of thing. And then we'll open things out for a question and answer session. So Wendy, over to you.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm not sure where the expert is. As he's quite rightly said, I'm the Chief Executive of Association for Group Travel Executives. We're a membership association where we have in excess of 350 group travel organisers who are members, and in the region of 200 supplier members, which are now called partners. So we facilitate the interface between the two parties, or two fragments of the association. I've been in the travel industry for probably about 35, 40 years in different elements of my life, and I wear a size 6 shoe. Over to you.
Hi, my name's Roland Eglinton, as Stuart said. So we're an SME coach operator based in Kent. There's around 2,500 coach operators in the UK, many of which are SMEs like ourselves, family owned, which for destinations who work with us adds quite a lot into their corporate social responsibility using local suppliers and SMEs. If I could sort of impart one message to the broader audience here, is to appreciate the benefits of coach and not just see them as an inconvenience. Coach tourism adds about £14 billion to the UK economy. That is a lot of money being spent in cafes and gift shops and going through the turnstiles of different places. And they enable travel to these places that people might not otherwise make. They might not have the confidence to go somewhere, or they might not find places particularly easy to access. So recently I was up in the northeast and I made a trip to the northwest, to the Lake District, and that's not a journey you can make easily by public transport or by rail. It's probably easier to come into Birmingham than it is to go to Cumbria. So coach gives you an ideal means of getting from one place to another, and have the operator or the group organiser take the hassle out of the travel. So yeah, that's me. That's what coach operators do. And over to you.
Hello, I'm Cheryl. I represent Visit Essex. Essex is one of those little known counties, really, but we do want the groups in Essex. And I think people sometimes say, well, what is there to do in Essex? There are so many things to do in Essex. With the A12, it's really accessible. And what we do is we work with the boroughs and the districts to find coach parking. So when we produced a group brochure, we have put where the coaches can park to make it easier. for them. And some of the districts also do an incentive for a coach driver, so they will offer a cup of coffee, and they really go out of their way to make coach groups welcome. I mean, little known fact about Essex is that second to Cornwall, it's the longest coastline, so very rural. So coaches. Yet we've got the A12, which makes it accessible, but you've got all these other roads off of the A12 that go down to the coastline, down. Essex is so big, so it goes crossways from, say, Southend over to Saffron Walden, and then you've got from Brentwood right up to Tendring, Harwich Way. So there's a lot of in-between places for coaches to go. And we're sort of membership-based, and all of our members, they do welcome the coaches. So they would go out of their way. And if you want itineraries, we can put itineraries together, and we can work with the coach operator, we can work with the GTO to ensure that everything is in place and going together. I have to say, it doesn't always go together. You could have, I took a fam trip out last week. We had a couple of incidences, but you know what? It didn't matter. The day went splendidly. So, and I'm a size 6 too.
Thank you, Cheryl. That sets the scene, I think. Do be thinking about questions you'd like to put to our three panellists. But I think this is a session about acting responsibly. And I'm going to ask Roland, first of all, how things are changing. We hear about over-tourism. From a coach operator's perspective, I feel that when a GTO or a tour planner comes to you to want to hire a coach, they'll probably be saying, this is where we want to go. But as a responsible coach operator, are you, first of all, noticing any change in the way that people are programming tours? And indeed, knowing that coaches themselves, after walking and cycling, are one of the most sustainable forms of transport, then there is a role now to be talking up coach travel. But my question, I guess, in all of that is, are you seeing a change in the way that people are approaching you, or is it same old, same old?
I wouldn't say same old, same old. We're noticing a change in the way that our customers interact with us. We're doing more online, less brochure-based stuff. In terms of the destinations that people want to go to, not particularly seeing any great shifts in the market. What we do have to consider is where people want to go, how easy is it for us to get there, get in and out. So our demands for a destination, our requirements for a destination is, can we get in and out, pick up and set down without too much trouble, and is there somewhere for us to park? If either of those are problematic, then we have to look at an alternative or taking people somewhere else entirely. And there's coach operators that have had to change their programs simply because a local authority or a councillor has had an issue with coaches in an area and think, big vehicle causing all these problems, wagging their fist, we don't want them here. And as I said at the start, think about the benefits that coach operators bring, not appreciating those benefits. So, as well as the spending power of the people that the coach brings in, that coach could be taking 50 cars off the road. So next time you're sat behind a coach thinking that's in my way, it could be a lot worse. That's 50 cars. It's also taking pollution out of the environment. So buses and coaches account for about 3% of transport carbon emissions in the UK, whereas private car and taxi is about 60%. We don't need a massive shift from people going from car to coach to, and I'm talking taking millions of tons of carbon out of the environment every year, and that makes your breathable atmosphere and things like that even better. So I'm not sure if I've answered the question, but access, parking, sustainability, that is something that we're having to focus on more these days.
And it's interesting, yesterday we heard from Phil Smith from the Confederation of Passenger Transport about the importance of destinations and visitor attractions being coach friendly, and that the CPT's coach friendly scheme is helping to remind attractions and destinations of the importance, as Roland has just said, of making sure when the coach arrives, all the facilities are there, not just for the group, but also for the coach driver as well. Wendy, I'm interested, you talk with GTOs a lot. Are you picking up any sort of understanding that this wider expectation, shall we call it, for trips to be more sustainable? We're already there with coach travel, but are GTOs now going, right, I want to go there because they recognise that coach travel is good, not necessarily because it's sustainable, just because coach travel is the way to go. But are we seeing any change at all in the way that GTOs are programming their trips?
I think so, yes. And I think also, I mean, Roland's quite right. Coach travel is one of the most sustainable ways of travel. And GTOs are looking more towards that. But I think what I feel with the GTOs is that they should take, when they're organising a trip, is actually speak to the coach operators and find out exactly where they're going to go. Because there are situations, like you mentioned, the little village, where coaches will turn up, everybody gets out, goes to a quick loo stop, and then jumps back in the coach. I mean, I personally had the experience when I was travelling in Italy, and we went down the Amalfi Coast, stopped at this place, beautiful gift shop, coffee shop. Everybody got off, went to the toilet. Nobody had time to spend any money, so it brought no economic benefit to that particular stop. And I think sometimes that's where the GTOs really should be looking at the way that the trip is organised, to make sure that where they do go and coaches are welcome, that they bring the economic benefit to that particular area or that particular coffee shop or stop. And it isn't just, because I think that's where you get the, not resentment is the wrong word, but you get the I can't remember the word now, where people don't want coaches, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
I've completely forgot the word. So yeah, and I think that GTO is becoming more involved in that side of things and looking at the sustainability of it.
Yes. And I think Cheryl made a very good point that when you think of Essex, or this might be just me, you sometimes think of the coastal southern Essex parts, which is what Essex sort of over the years has been famous for. But as you've heard, and as we know in this industry, there's a chunk more of Essex, especially mid and north Essex. So for Essex as a destination to encourage visitors to travel, what is your experience, Cheryl, of the destinations and the attractions in the rest of Essex, as we call it? So it's not just Southend Pier, but you're going north up to the Suffolk border. Are you finding that they are recognising the importance of acting responsibly and putting itineraries together that give tour operators, GTOs, the chance to put on a tour that really ticks all the boxes?
Yeah, you're right. There is so much than all the sort of the major attractions, if you like. There are lots of, and they do want groups. It's how do they know how to pitch to the groups and to the coach companies. So this is where I come in, really, that I have a stand at shows, and I can tell them where else they can go. And it's amazing, really, how it's not just the gardens and it's the historic houses, but there's also vineyards. There's a lot of vineyard tours that go, and I think a lot of GTOs don't realise that either, and they go, oh, it's something different. But it is, you're quite right, not all the attractions know how to go about getting group business. It's not that they don't want them, it's just that they don't know how to go about getting them. So by working with AGTO, then we can get that message out there, and on our website we've got them all. So I can't think of any one attraction that does not want a group.
Okay, it's worth probably just mentioning that being coach friendly, I think Phil yesterday was saying there's something like 33 or 36 destinations around the UK that do have coach friendly accreditation. If you want to know more, do go to the CPT, Confederation of Passenger Transport website, and you'll see the sort of thing that CPT. It's sort of free to get the advice. Obviously, there's a budget or there's a cost to implementing things to make sure that you are coach friendly. But I think that's one way to move towards attracting more people. I think what we see around this show, as you walk around, and it's one of the real benefits, I think, of a live trade show, a group travel trade show, you get ideas and inspiration. But I don't know whether, if you were to speak with everybody who's exhibiting here, every one of our exhibitors, appreciates the importance of coach tourism to their business. The fact they're here suggests it does. But I think there was one I spotted yesterday, and I asked them about the coach parking facilities, and I seem to think there was a charge. And it must have been a destination, because it's not always, they're not always in charge of the parking arrangement. It'll be the local authority. And we heard from Josh Croft earlier from UK Inbound talking about the need for everybody to start to pull together. You'd thought by now we'd be doing this. I mean, Roland, in terms of, when as you mentioned earlier, when you're hiring a coach, I mean, we won't talk about coming to London because that's a different beast altogether, but if you're going somewhere, can you influence, say, a GTO or a tour planner in the destination that you choose? I'm thinking mostly they'll say, we want to go there, give us a coach. But you might, knowing your experience, of say, well, the coach parking there you have to pay, but the next place down the road doesn't. Are you able to influence those choices at all?
Yeah, we can to a certain degree. So there's organisations as well like CTA who are helpful with that sort of thing. We do some kind of policy stuff and lobbying work through CPT that I'm quite involved in. So we've seen some destinations pitching their prices, we think, unfairly. So there was some of the markets and things, £50 to £100 to park a coach for a day, which on top of the cost of hiring a coach, we seem as unreasonable. There was an event at Stonehenge for the summer solstice where it was, I think, £200 for a coach for the day. And I can't see how you justify that, but we're having to work harder with our group organisers to say, look, yes, you want to go here, there's this extra cost which actually isn't us. Do you want to consider alternatives? So it is factoring into people's decision making about where they want to go. We have had some successes, Heathrow being one where they were looking at a considerable hike in their parking charges. So through our trade association, they've been able to make those more reasonable. But it is a constant battle, and it is something that we have to make customers aware of.
It's interesting you mentioned CTA, that's the Coach Tourism Association. Indeed, the next session after this one will be a panel discussion with members of CTA. But I think CTA, AGTO, there are organisations about who can have an influence in getting these messages across. But it's still a hard task, I feel. Wendy, AGTO obviously just gone through a refresh, a rebrand. The new branding is looking excellent.
Thank you.
And I think members of AGTO, and it's a membership organisation, of course, are able to talk to each other. There are Facebook groups. We have AGTO Traveller, the new magazine, or the Refresh magazine, and that's giving information. But are we back to this problem that everybody wants to act responsibly, and we want to make sure that when we're going out with groups to visit places, then sort of you're acting and you are behaving responsibly, but it's at times really quite difficult to do. Is there another way to approach all this, or do we just need to keep battling on as we do?
That's a difficult question, really. I think really sustainability is, there's always going to be a cost. There always will be a cost and implications on trying to be sustainable. Obviously for the coaches it's a sustainable way of travelling, but then you have the parking fees, etc. So things like that. I think it is just battling on, and it's the associations and organisations like the CTA, CPT, ourselves. We're members of Tourism Alliance, which also push with Parliament and the government to try and stop it. But I think each region has their own autonomy. So no matter what the government says, they're going to say, well, we're going to charge you this. So it's either you have to accept it to a certain point of view. You can push back a certain amount, as Roland says, by offering different locations or different places to visit, which doesn't incur the cost. But if it's somewhere you want to go, unfortunately, it's something you have to pay for,
Yes.
which is
Do we have
very
any-
unfortunate.
Do we have any questions from the floor? It's nicely quiet. We have a roving microphone, so if you would like to ask our panelists anything, by all means do so. I'm tempted to almost... Yes, just give us your name and who you represent.
I'm Anne Barnes. I am a member of AGTO as a group travel organiser. And I find the benefits of shows like this as a way of networking and finding out what's available are very useful, and certainly contacts that I make through AGTO are very useful, so that's a good networking and marketing arena. I prefer the face-to-face contact or the telephone contact with people when I'm organising something, because you can ask the questions rather than doing a whole booking through online, where you can't say, I've got someone with special needs, and you can't sort of say, can I book 20 tickets and then only need 15 maybe. If you have to do everything online, it's not great for a group travel organiser. But through AGTO, I can make the contact by telephone, and it's a lot better.
I was going to say Anne, Jackie, so I'm going to ask Anne again. Have you, when you're talking to a coach operator, and you'll have your regular coach operators that you will use, is your behaviour the same as it's always been in planning things, or are you starting to look and see, actually, if we go there, we need to spend longer there because we're not delivering an economic benefit? I doubt it's a thought that crosses your mind, but is it, in the way that now with over-tourism in some parts of the country and elsewhere, when you're taking a group, are you thinking, actually, we're bringing a group in, we really need to make sure we're giving a benefit to that local visitor economy?
That's awkward. I tend to book a trip because the people want to go there, or I think it's an exciting thing. You can do things like the wetland centres, that's the ecology and nature side of things, but I don't tend to think about the economy, I'm afraid. Sorry.
No. I think it's interesting then where this responsibility lies.
Yeah.
Because, if Bibury in the Cotswolds, and I haven't been to stop. I've driven through it, parked the car, taken a picture, and carried on. So I'm guilty,
yeah.
but I'm not a group. Well, a group of one. Is this an issue that is? We hear about it, and we hear people saying, right, you can't just turn up 5 minutes and off you go again. I don't really think there are many group and tour operators who do that. Possibly, you mentioned the Amalfi Coast example, and you'd think, that doesn't sound right, and I'm sure you took that up with the tour operator and said, just to let you know, this isn't great. But in the UK, apart from Bibury, and we had this problem with the Cotswolds, as Roland will know, that Bourton on the Water didn't want coaches at all, because they saw them as large vehicles causing trouble with being a vehicle. We've resolved that one slightly now, I think, by dropping off on the edge and parking up at a local coach operator's yard. Garage, which is very good. But are you, as a... Go on.
Is it, from that point of view, it's more of an education process, isn't it? That the fact that, the destination says, no, we don't want that coach. It's basically, and I still don't know whose responsibility that would be, but it's the education of, like Roland said, the coach arrives, it brings all these people, it is a sustainable way to travel, and we deliver this economy on the turnstiles and what he mentioned earlier on in this session.
It is.
But I'm not sure whose responsibility that would be. It's sort of like something that everybody has to contribute to actually make it work.
Yes, Roland?
Yeah, we find that discussion is best led locally, normally through the local operator working with their representations from the council or the local tourist board. They're generally the ones that have got the contacts and know the people to talk to. doesn't mean to say they're all on the same page, but then we get CPT involved with their regional structure, so the local regional manager can go out and have meetings and support the operator, support the destination as well, trying to find best practice or what can work. What I will say is a gridlocked, doesn't matter what destination you are, a gridlocked road system doesn't work for anybody in terms of the visitor experience. So it's in everybody's interest to try and make that work, be it taking cars off the road or getting more people in. So it's just refocusing the intentions and the agendas sometimes, rather than caving into the whims of somebody with a grievance about big vehicles.
Yes, okay. Well, we're getting close to our time. I think I'm going to ask our panel one last question, and it's the cliche one almost. If there was one thing, one way, well, one message to get across, whether it's from AGTO, from a coach operator, or from a destination, to this industry, for coach tourism, to say, right, how do we act more responsibly? And I think we know the answer. But if there was a single message, Cheryl, let me start with you. What might you say?
Oh, this is quite difficult, really. It puts me on the spot.
I think the message is probably going to be,
I was going to say,
and help plan. But,
yes, because that's why we're represented at shows like this, so that GTOs can come up to us. We can plan an itinerary. You can go onto our website and plan an itinerary. So there are ways. We've got the knowledge of the contacts. So get in contact with us, and we can pass those details on to you. So.
Okay. All right, Roland.
Before I answer that, sorry. I would just say, if it's been a long time since you've been on a coach, go and have a look at the one over there, because I jumped on it earlier and it is absolutely fantastic. It will change your mind if you're thinking about coach travel as something rather dated. But as I said at the start, think about the benefits that coaches provide to your local area, to your destination, anything like that, and talk to your local coach operator as well, because they've got so much knowledge and contacts as well. We're very good at helping other people where we can. So there's many more benefits to coaching than you might otherwise consider. So please do talk to us.
Okay. And finally, Wendy, as this is an AGTO session.
Thank you, Stuart. I think I'm just going to reiterate what Cheryl and Roland have said is communication, is to speak to people, and also I would like our members to think more about the economic benefits. That's targeted at you. Just basically think about the economic benefits that you can bring with your group to wherever it is you're going to visit. I mean, there's some beautiful places around the country, and do please think about that side of thing. But that goes with discussion. Talk to your operators, talk to the destinations, go on fam trips, really discover where there are some good places to go and where you can actually benefit those places to enable them to continue to be there for future generations.
I think the message that we've heard here then is, in acting responsibly, this industry already is. The fact that coach travel is, apart from walking and cycling, as we said, the most sustainable form of transport. Modern coaches, go and have a look at the electric coach over there. It's the first of the triaxle electric coaches, fully electric. It can go out and back somewhere in a day. We haven't quite mastered the art of charging overnight anywhere yet, but it's a matter of time. But at the moment, that's state-of-the-art coach. And that's the way to travel. And I think this industry is acting responsibly. So if this was a debate, I think...
Just one more point. There's a real opportunity at the moment with the government rewriting local transport plans and things like that, to think about getting coaches in there from the outset of the planning stage, rather than trying to shoehorn stuff in. So talk to your local politicians as well about that, and at national level as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to bring the session to a close. Would you thank our speakers, Wendy, Roland and Cheryl?
Okay.